Today, the government is announcing a second package.
$900 reduce.
G'day, thank you for joining me. Today we're doing part 2 of the government stimulus package plan. It was recently announced in a press conference by Josh Frydenberg and the
Prime Minister!
I wanted to go through some of the key clauses, components and parts of the stimulus package. We'll see how it compares to the first one. This stimulus package is split into two parts, similar to the last one. I want to particularly focus on the household section of the stimulus package. Part 1 has to do with welfare payments. So what the government's done is introduced a $550 per fortnight supplementary payment to the New Start or Job Seeker Allowance, as it's now called, and to Youth Allowance for Students. That was announced after the press conference at a later date. So this temporary supplementary income is called something like the Coronavirus Supplement, something along those lines. And basically, effectively, what it's going to do is double the Job Seeker Allowance and the Youth Allowance payments. Although the government is constantly going on about how this is a temporary measure, good luck to any government that wants to try to remove this supplement after this pandemic is over. The idea that you're going to halve New Start or half the Job Seeker Allowance after this pandemic, people just won't buy that. The idea of business as usual after this crisis is becoming less and less plausible.
And we are enhancing in an unprecedented way Australia's safety net.
The government has also announced a secondary $750 payment for those not on the Job Seeker Allowance. So if you were already due to receive one of these payments because you're on the pension, for example, you will receive a secondary payment. Now, interestingly, the first round of payments haven't even been made yet. Whether or not you're going to receive both at the same time, whether they're going to be staggered, who knows? One of the key and most transformational parts of the second stimulus package is the unprecedented early access it gives people to their superannuation. So already within the superannuation system, there are provisions for early access. So if, for example, you hurt yourself in some grievous way and you can't return to work, you do have early access to superannuation before retirement. Now, obviously that's for extreme situations. What we're instead looking at here is the government is allowing up to a $20,000 withdrawal from superannuation done over the course of 2 financial years. So this financial year, $10,000, next financial year, an extra $10,000. Make no mistake about it, this is an attack by the Liberal Party on superannuation. They didn't want it when it was brought in. There are members within the party now that want superannuation to be made voluntary. It is more likely than not the government will seek to slow, if not outright stop, the increase to superannuation that was mandated to happen this year or next year. So we have to think about why the government wants to give people early access to their superannuation. This is not some extraordinary event from which you will never recover. Instead, this is a supplement to your income, probably due to income lost, that you will use to pay your rent. So the government is allowing you to dip into your retirement income in order to pay your rent, pay your landlord. The ASX has dipped over the last week and 2 weeks particularly. Shares are now selling at probably not rock bottom prices, but very low compared to historical averages. For casuals especially, who predominantly are young people, they're going to be selling their shares at much less than what the historical market value has been. And the people buying those will have conservative superannuation accounts. They're going to be closer to retirement. Although they're going to have less of their total superannuation in shares, they still will be purchasing them at much lower prices, and those that have money in the share market at the moment as well. So what we're doing is transferring wealth from the young and more likely than not the poor, considering they're casuals, and we're transferring that wealth to those that already have it. In the business sector, small businesses with employees will receive a $20,000 handout. That's additional to anything they would have received from the first package, which again has not been paid out yet. The government is also partnering with the banks to offer unsecured guaranteed loans to businesses up to $250,000. There's some provisions in there for no interest periods and whatnot. Again, with this business stuff, I just have to take other people's words for it. It sounds good. It doesn't sound like it's a bad thing. There are other elements to this stimulus package, something to do with deeming rates, some other stuff that it just flies right over my head. I have no stake in any of that. I think the clear takeaway from this stimulus package and the first is that ultimately this is not transformational stuff. This is to keep businesses alive for now, keep households alive for now. Aside from the changes to superannuation, these things should only last a couple of months. They will only last a couple of months. Their effects will not be felt down the track. Particularly with superannuation, this sets a very worrying precedent. In future, next time there's an economic collapse, next time there's some unforeseeable issue that happens, the government has set the precedent that we have to dip into our own retirement savings to bail ourselves out, and that they will not be responsible for doing so.
Every arm of government and industry is working to keep Australians in jobs and businesses and in business and in business and in business and in business